All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on? How's everybody doing? If you can hear me, make sure you let me know down in the comments below. That's going to help me know that, hey, everything's working out okay. And you can hear me. That would be the most important first step is if you can actually hear what I'm doing. If you can't hear me, oh, well, then this isn't going to work, is it? Awesome. Armene says, I can hear you. I was talking with a few fellows in the comments before we went live here. And by the way, if you're joining the stream right now, hey, let me know in the comments where you're from, what instrument you play. And hey, I'm going to answer some live jazz Q&A about jazz improvisation, about practicing, whatever you think I can help you with today. Happy to spend a little time to do that. So if you think I can help you with something, feel free to ask a question in the comments. I'll try to get to as many as I can. So Andres from Texas, right? Thanks for hanging out today. We got a few guys from Sweden today hanging out right before their bedtime. So I appreciate you guys spending a little bit of time with me. That's really cool. Hey, guess what, guys? So I got this little package in the mail today from YouTube. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, it's the silver play button, which, by the way, if you guys don't know, the silver play button, it's YouTube gives out this award if you get 100,000 subscribers, which we hit the other month. Thanks to you guys. So thank you so much for being a part of the Learn Jazz Standards community. And I thought to myself, oh, I could just open this or I could share the experience with you guys. I thought to myself, hey, let's just go live and I'll show you it together. Since it's, honestly, it's not really just my award. It's kind of all of your guys' award too. Yukimani AK, Aileen, I guess is who you are. Aileen says, congrats. Thank you so much. Andre says, congrats. TLG Productions says, cool. Emerald Empire, you're from New Zealand. Man, thanks for, wow, you guys are from all over the world. That's super awesome. Jacksonville, Florida, Armene. I've spent a little bit of time there before. Jeff Taylor from East Bay, California. Sax, guitar, flute, clarinet. Wow, you play a lot of instruments. That is super awesome. How do you play all those instruments? I can only play the guitar. I can play a little piano, like, just like basics, right? Because that's important. But that guitar beats me up. So kudos to you for playing all those different instruments. It's so awesome. Peter Hill from London. Thanks for being here, Peter. Really appreciate it. Thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate that. Jeff Taylor says, no kids. So that's cool. Emerald Empire asks if I can cook. I can totally cook. Or are you talking to somebody else? I'm not sure. But I can definitely cook. In fact, I love cooking. It's one of my favorite pastimes, by the way. Fun fact, when I'm not playing jazz, when I'm not making great content here on Learn Jazz Standards, so I'm not doing the podcast, YouTube, I am cooking for my lovely wife here in New York City. Love doing that. So, hey, guys, if you have any questions that I can answer for you, I'm going to unbox this for you guys a little bit later. But I figure, let's do a little bit of jazz Q&A first. If I can help you guys with anything at all, that's what I'm here to do. Anything from my experience just studying jazz, practicing jazz, playing gigs here around it, if I can help you in any way, what to do, that's what this time is for. So thanks for being here, everybody. So one more thing before we get to some questions. So feel free to leave those questions below in the comments. One more thing is, if you don't mind a little bit of shameless self-promotion here, on May 26th, Sunday, May 26th, I'm coming out with my brand new ebook companion course, the Jazz Standards Playbook Volume 2, which is an in-depth study of 10 jazz standards, which I'm really excited about this. So if you guys are interested in that, I think I left that in the description. So, or you could go to the Jazz Standards Playbook 2, that's the number 2.com. There's a little early sign-up list for that if you're interested in that book. Those of you who are familiar with the volume 1, a lot of you I know who are have been involved in that, you'll know that this is just the second volume of that. Really excited. Me and the LGS team have been working for 5 months hard on this, just editing, creating some great music for y'all. So thanks for checking that out in advance. All right, let's start with a few questions. Remember, leave those down in the comments below. I'm happy to answer anything that I have time to get to. Let's see. Looking for the first question. I know I saw some earlier. Okay, TLG Productions ask, I'm wondering how you would analyze chords and chord progressions differently going from a polyphonic instrument to a monophonic instrument like clarinet, for instance. So polyphonic, I'm guessing you mean like piano or guitar that plays multiple different notes at once, like chords, comping. and then monophonic meaning like a saxophone or a clarinet. Anyone who plays just single note lines, right? You can't play more than one note at a time. So the honest answer, and by the way, the Jazz Standards Playbook 2 and all that stuff is all about analyzing chord progressions. The honest answer is not much differently. Not much differently at all. Because as a monophonic instrument, you need to understand how chords are constructed, right? You need to understand the very basics, like how do you build a major seventh chord, right? Root, third, fifth, seventh. How do you make a minor seventh chord? Root, flat three, five, flat seven, right? You need to know all of those chords. And I'm sure that and you may understand how to build all those chords out. So the only difference is that on the guitar, I can play all those notes at once, or on the piano, you can play all those notes at once. But on a clarinet or a saxophone, I would almost say that you have an advantage in the sense of when you're thinking about improvisation, you're already thinking about all those notes individually. And when we're talking about jazz improvisation, in my opinion, chord tones, that is like the most important part about improvising. It's not scales. It's not scales. It's about chord tones and how to connect those chord tones together and how to make them musical. So as far as analyzing them, you still need to know, okay, 2-5-1 in the key of C. Then we're going to the relative minor. That's A minor, 2-5-1 to A minor. I'm just giving a random example here, by the way. Well, actually, let's give a real example. So Autumn Leaves, for example, the easiest example I can give right now. Let's say we're doing it in the key of G minor. So we have a 2-5-1, and this is the way I think about it. I don't relate it all to the minor. I think about relative major and relative minor keys. So we have a 2-5-1 in B flat major, C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7, right? 2-5-1, and then we hit the 4 chord. That's E flat major 7, and then we have a 2-5-1 in the parent minor key, which is G minor. So A minor 7 flat 5, D7 usually altered, flat 9, sharp 9, sharp 5, or flat 13 to the 1 chord, G minor 7, right? So whether you're a polyphonic instrument or a monophonic instrument, you should think about it the same way. But the great thing about you, TLG Productions, since it sounds like you play clarinet, I'm not sure, you can practice those chord changes just spelling out those chord tones and then voice leading them together. Now, just in case you don't know what that means, what do I mean by voice leading? I mean connecting to the nearest chord tone, right? Connecting to the very nearest chord tone. So that might not mean that you play up the roots, up the 2 chord, and up the root from the 5 chord, and up the root from the 1 chord. You're going to connect them together using voice leading. So I don't know that I would analyze it differently. I hope that answers your question. Okay, let's look at another question here. Okay, Andres from Texas says, here's a question. Can you describe when you have the most fun practicing and playing live? Oh, that is a great question, Andres. Very glad you asked that. When do I have the most fun? Let's start with practicing. I have the most fun practicing when I have an aha moment. And usually that aha moment doesn't come from me noodling and playing random stuff, right? We've all been in that situation before where we're just playing random stuff, just noodling, not doing much of anything. And then suddenly an hour flies by, if you have an hour of your time, and you didn't really work on anything, you didn't do anything. But if you have a very intentional practice schedule, which when I do get into the practice room, even if I have 30 minutes, I'm very intentional about what I want to accomplish. And sometimes for me, I'm a pretty busy guy. That's all I have, 30 minutes. So I'm going to go in there. I know exactly what solo I'm working on. I know exactly what jazz standard I'm working on. I know exactly what my weaknesses are. And I do have plenty of weaknesses. So I want to tackle those weaknesses. So for me, and that's just me, right? Like some people will have most fun when they're just noodling. But for me, it's when I have that aha moment, which only comes in that circumstance. Okay, playing live is a totally different situation because playing live is not about working. It's about enjoying and having fun. So for me, this is the best answer I can give you, Andres. For me, I have the funnest playing live when everybody is serving the music. When everybody's serving the music. What do I mean by that? When I'm playing and I care more about what the saxophone player is playing or the drummer's playing and what the bass player is playing, when I care more about what they're doing and they care more about what I'm doing, some of the most magical musical moments have happened in my life. I'm thinking about this gig I played. I live in New York City, by the way, in case you don't know. I think about this gig I was playing on the Lower East Side at this cocktail bar. I usually play there on Tuesdays. Not always these days, but usually. And there's this one night where It's almost hard to describe. It's like all of us were just locking together and just I guess the stars aligned in some way, but really our minds aligned. Like all of us were listening to each other. And I wasn't really even when it was my turn to solo, like, you know how we always get in our head when we're getting up to solo? We're always so worried, like, oh my gosh, what notes do I play? Am I going to play the wrong note? What are the other people going to think about me? I wasn't thinking about any of that stuff. Like I was just so locked in, and everybody was playing out of a place of serving the other people in the band, serving the music. And honestly, that every time that happens, it's like that's why I play music. Like that's why I play music. That's why I study jazz, because like improvisation has this ability to, transcends levels that, you thought you could even play. So for me, that's my favorite times. Hope that wasn't too long-winded. I tend to be long-winded, but Andres, that's my answer for you. Hope that helped. So yeah, got anybody who's in the stream right now, you got a question, leave it below. Thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate it. In case you're new to the stream, I am going to be unboxing this silver play button that I got in the mail from YouTube today. So pretty excited about that. It's kind of a big milestone for a content creator like myself. So I'm kind of excited to do that for you guys, but happy to answer any jazz questions until then. All right. So let's take a look here. Don't want to miss too many questions here. Okay. Trinchera Music asks, oh, wait, I missed someone else's. Cole Parker. Hey, Brent, what's your all-time favorite jazz album? Oh, man. I don't know. I love The Bridge, Sonny Rollins' The Bridge, but I don't know if that's my favorite one, but like the one that's coming to my head right now is Sonny Rollins' The Bridge. It's got Jim Hall on it, and like I'm a guitar player. So obviously, like, I have a little bit of but I love Jim Hall. Okay. And I just think that album is brilliant. And that's like when Sonny Rollins kind of went off his little hiatus where he was just practicing on the Williamsburg Bridge all night long. And then so this is kind of his first album after that. And I think it's really interesting that he chose a guitar player to be the comper. And I think that band is really cool. So let me just say that one, although that is not fair. It's probably not my favorite one of all time, but I do love that one. Trinchera Music asks, when you see chord and progressions, do you hear music? When I see them, it is abstract. I still have to think too much. That's a good question. So when I talk about learning music and learning jazz specifically, since that's what we're talking about here, I think about like this left brain and this right brain thing. Or for you, it's left brain and right brain. Not sure. And so like the right brain is like ear training, right? And the right brain is learning jazz solos by ear. The right brain is learning jazz standards by ear, right? It's this aural side, which is I think in improvisation is super important. And then on the left side, you have this analytical thing that I really believe needs to happen. I was just talking earlier, if you missed it, about my Jazz Standards Playbook Volume 2 that's coming out not this Sunday, but next Sunday. And that's all about analyzing, because I do believe analyzing is important. But you're totally right, Chinchera Music. That is not like, I'm not hearing music when I see that, right? That's more analyzing what's actually happening. But I do believe that by analyzing, you really can start opening up a ton of doors with your improvisation. I think both of them have to come together, the right brain, the hearing side, and the left side. So I think a balanced approach to that is always best. That's where I sometimes have a problem with too much chord scale theory. I think chord scale theory is great. I use it in my teaching, but too much of it gets over analytical. And then you start hearing that, like you can hear that it's not that musical. So you really want to balance your approach to that. Hope that answers your question. DeVilch, when are you coming out with an album? Had that question for a while. You know what? I have been putting it off for far too long, and I'm glad you asked me that question because I need to start asking myself that question. So that's a challenging question for me. That's what I got for you right now. I should definitely come up with an album. It's something that I want to do for sure. Okay. Let's Cole Parker, do you think focus listening when listening to music other than jazz is beneficial? For example, if you have the radio on or something and there's pop music playing, can you incorporate ear training? Absolutely. And I personally, I mean, jazz happens to be my favorite style of music, but I personally don't I'm fine with any style. As good music is good music. I forgot who said that, but there's only two kinds of music: good music and bad music. So if it's good music, it's good music. And so I think like and even if it's bad music, I guess you could still analyze it, right? I mean, why not? The one thing I will say, like the curse of the musician, and this is my experience. I wonder if you guys feel the same way. The curse of the musician is that you always feel like you have to analyze music, and sometimes that leads to not enjoying music. I've fallen prey to that. I feel like there's a time and place for it. Um, but yeah, I do think that that is certainly be beneficial. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Jerry Feldman, welcome, Jerry. Jerry from NYC, play guitar right now in Paris with my Taylor Mini for company. That's awesome. I was in Paris just for a 10-hour layover the other day. I love Paris. I was coming from Greece. So was just where you're hanging out not too long ago. Let's see. Looking for some more questions here. Christopher Pritchard says something to Cole Parker. The more you listen to things you're trying to play, the more familiar you'll get with certain ideas. So yeah, listening definitely can help because it gets ideas in your head. Yeah, any listening gets ideas in your head. Love that. All right, Matilde Almeida. Hope I said your name right. So this year I'll have to decide my future. I love music, but my family doesn't. What do I do? No pressure, but I'm very stressed. So I guess I need a little bit more. That's a very personal question. I guess I need a little bit more background before that. Is what's the conflict? You know what I mean? Because is it a situation where maybe you're trying to make a career out of music and not everybody in your family agrees with it? Or I mean, I don't really know the context to it. Otherwise, I'd be happy to help you with that. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's all I can give you for now. Um, Okay. EA Kenneth says, I'm a psychology student. The right brain versus left brain is a good metaphor, but it's not really physically separated. It's good to think about those two components of thought. Totally agree with you. I've studied a little bit of psychology, by the way. I totally understand where you're coming from. But yeah, I do think it's a good way just to think about it for the layman person, right? Okay. Emerald Empire. I'm in a little band. I'm not getting the practice times, and it's tough since my friends don't have time. Yeah, it's hard when you're relying on other people to play. That's always hard. I would say, is there any jam sessions in your area? I know not everybody has access to those, but if you have a jam session in your area, that's kind of your outlet to start playing, right? To start getting in there and doing some playing time. Because you're right, music sitting in your practice room all day, that's only so helpful. You really need to get out there. The real learning comes on the bandstand. That's my real opinion, right? You practice in the practice room because when you're practicing, you're working on those things that you're not quite good at that you noticed from your last live performance wasn't quite adding up. And so when you're working on that in the practice room, you need somewhere to apply it. I mean, and it's great if you're someone who's just having fun and enjoys practicing. I had this friend in college who literally would sit in his practice room practicing his bass for like 6, 7 hours straight every single day. But he did it because it relaxed him, which when I used to have those kind of practicing days, which I did at one point, I wasn't doing it because I loved to practice that long. I was doing it because I wanted to improve. I wanted to get better. I was slightly obsessed. This guy did it for relaxing. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. Yes, yeah, you need to find other people to play with. That's always a thing. I feel for you. I totally feel for you. Okay. Any other? Let's see. TLG Production says I got hooked on Solar after one of your videos. Most people seem to prefer putting less emphasis on one chord, the C minor major 7. I enjoy the otherworldly sound of starting on such a chord. Is that wrong? Is that wrong? No, it's definitely not wrong. I wonder what video you got that I got you hooked on Solar with. You have to tell me what that is. No, I don't think that's wrong at all. Again, I don't discriminate against music really. Good music is good music, and so I don't. I don't really think a C minor major 7 personally is otherworldly. I guess it depends on your ear, what you're used to listening to. I think that color tone, adding the major 7th on top of that minor 7th is great. And where does that come from, by the way? That comes from harmonizing the harmonic minor scale and the melodic minor scale, right? Because if we harmonize a regular natural minor scale, not C, but a natural minor scale, the one chord is going to be just a minor 7th chord, right? But if we harmonize a harmonic minor or a melodic minor scale, it's going to be a minor major 7th chord. So that's where that comes out of. Minor I have a video on that in YouTube, and actually, I did a podcast episode with one of my old professors, Daniel Carrillo. Look that up on my feed. I can't remember off the top of my head what number episode that was, but he has a really, really great understanding of minor harmony, which is much more complex than major harmony. But no, I don't think it's otherworldly. I think it's great. Do what you want to do. Enjoy music. That's what it's for, right? Um, all right, let me look for some more comments here. All right, Cole Parker, you have another question. I'm happy to answer it, Cole. No problem. Thanks for the response so far. My last question is, do you know anyone who was in the military and played music? I'm joining the Navy and haven't found much information about opportunities to play. I'm so sorry. I don't. I don't know of anybody who's played in the military. Well, that's not true. I do, but I more know of them rather than actually know them personally. Otherwise, I'd be happy to help you with that. Um, there must be some opportunities to play. I feel like there are, but I'm just talking, right? Sorry, I can't help you there, Cole. John Coltrane was in the Navy. Yes, he was actually. In fact, fun fact: his first recording, I think it was his first recording that's kind of out there on the internet. I think was when he was playing in the Navy band, and if you listen to that recording, I think it sounds fine. A lot of people, like critics, say, "Oh, it sounds horrible." I still think it sounds good because I mean, it's all relative, right? Like, I mean, if I hear, a student like a 15-year-old student, play what I think is good, Anyways, that's a different topic. I think he sounds great in that Navy band, but yeah, that's true. John Coltrane was in the Navy. Yeah, he played alto. That's right, Cole Parker. Um, let's keep. Oh, hey, Jonathan Nathaniel Cuevas Senya from the Dominican Republic. Thanks for hanging out. Emerald Empire. How do you know which chords to use if you're improvising? Because I see a lot of pianists and guitarists playing chords in their solos. How do you know what chords to use? How do you know what chords to use if you're improvising? Well, so are you talking from Are you a single note player like a saxophone? Are you violin player, clarinet, trumpet? Is that what you're referring to? Because yeah, ultimately, there's a jazz standard and there's sort of like the agreed upon general changes, but a piano player or a guitar player might play a chord change that's outside of that. At the end of the day, if you're the one soloing, I personally believe if we're serving the music here, the guitar player, the piano player, whoever the comper is, should be respecting what the improviser is doing. Or if you're working together somehow, if you guys are in sync, that's a different story. So yeah, just need a little more context with that. I'd be happy to help you with that though. Okay, Andres Guzman Ballin. Here's the inverse to the previous question I asked. Can you describe when you are the most bored practicing or playing live? I'm the most bored practicing when I am just noodling and getting nothing accomplished. So the inverse of my first answer, when I'm not getting anything accomplished, I'm not very happy with what's going on. That's just me. Again, it's all personal. Some people just have a great time noodling and just doing whatever. For me, I just have this sort of personality where if I'm not accomplishing something, I go crazy. So, it's all relative. When I'm the most bored playing live is when people have negative attitudes. Oh man, like I feel like if you've ever played at a jam session or a gig, you've experienced this before. If people have attitudes, whether they're being vibey, like, thinking I'm way better than everybody else. And so that just creates this negative energy. Or if it's someone who's maybe insecure. Well, I think everybody who's vibey is insecure, but maybe you're just insecure and you're just, bringing negative energy, or maybe like it's something outside, like in the outside of your life. Like, and I've been guilty of doing this before, like coming to the bandstand with baggage I'm carrying from outside of the bandstand. And then, when that energy gets brought in, then it just, because music is an emotional thing. So if you're going to bring the emotion down negative, bores me, makes me tired, makes me, makes the gig suck. That's just my opinion. Okay, looking for more questions. Trinchera Music says, not sure about Navy per se, but yes, amazing musicians out of the military. Awesome. Thanks for helping with that. TLG Productions, things might be different here in Sweden, but my band's drummer played with a band in the Air Force even. Awesome. DeVilch, am I saying your username right? Or DeVilch? Can you play music mainly with diminished chords? I plan on experimenting on dark sounds. Can diminished chords be harmonized like you do the major or minors? Well, first of all, there really are only three diminished chords, right? Otherwise, it just sort of like they're just repeats of each other, different inversions of each other. Can you do that? I mean, I know enough about diminished theory, but I probably wouldn't be the best person to like answer your question completely fully, like in the most accurate way. Can you play it mostly out of that? I mean, technically, I mean, a professor of mine when I was studying in Seattle at a great college there, Cornish College of the Arts, he once said like any chord can follow any chord. It's just if you make it musical or not. And it depends if people will like it or not, right? Or if you like it, who cares, right? So yeah, I guess you could. But I don't know about all the application stuff if that's what you're asking me. Um, okay, Emerald Empire. You play the piano and trombone. The question is more for piano. Oh, like what are they playing when they're improvising? Well, so as a guitar player, I can speak as a guitar player. So and I think it probably applies to piano too. So as a guitar player, you know, you have just more than one note you can work with, right? We were talking earlier in our conversation about monophonic and polyphonic instruments. And so if you're monophonic, you can play, or sorry, other way around, you can play more than polyphonic. You can play more than one note at a time. So you know, when you start understanding chord melodies a little bit, like how to take a top melody note and then just mix it with different chords, you can start moving around sounds and creating more things. So, how to actually know? I think the best place to start for you is simply trying chord melodies. So, take a popular jazz standard, you know, or one that's easy for you. Don't start with one hard and just try simple chord melody. Just try to and what I mean by chord melody, by the way, if you're not familiar, is just have a melody note in the top and chords in the bottom and just take it slow. Experiment with as many ways you can to connect each chord to each other, but keep the melody up top, right? I don't know why I would suggest Autumn Leaves, other than the fact that it's just an easy one to start with. But really, in the end, pick anyone you know. So, how to know what actual chords to play is just, you know, that's a good starting place. Another starting place is, and I always suggest this to everybody, transcribe. I don't mean necessarily writing it down. If that helps you, you can, but learn it by ear. So learn by ear, maybe a Red Garland block solo, and that might be difficult to hear. I mean, I know it's really hard to hear, but if you use an app like Amazing Slowdowner or Transcribe, that's another option. You know, you can slow that down and kind of like start to fill in the blank spots of like what those chords actually are. Because Red Garland plays a lot of block chords like that. If you're a guitar player, Wes Montgomery plays a lot of chords that you can hear, right? They're just common chords. You can hear those. Hope that helps a little bit. Let's see. Christopher Pritchard, I'll be graduating high school in a few weeks now. Congratulations. And I want to continue music. I'll be involved with jazz in college, but what's the best way to set up gigs? Should I start my own band to play with? That's a great question. So Christopher, this is a big question. I could probably go on for hours about this. I'll try to make it very short for you. If you want to start playing gigs, first start networking with your other students, who the other students who are playing jazz in college. So start with that. Then whatever I don't know what your local scene is. I don't know what city you're going to be in, but just start to hustle. You know, that's what I did when I was a sophomore in well, I was a freshman in college in Seattle, Washington, and then I moved to New York City when I was a sophomore. When I was both cities, I guess, but especially when I was a sophomore, I was just hitting the streets and I was just asking every single restaurant and bar, you know, and just pitching them like a business person, right? I'm not thinking like a musician. I'm thinking like a business person. You know, how can I help that business with my live music? And I would go out and do that. Now, if there's existing jam sessions in your area, go out to those sessions and start networking those other musicians, right? Networking that's like the jazz musician thing, networking. I'm not going to say I'm the best person at it, but that's a good way to go. But hustle. Yeah, just hustle gigs and get to know your fellow students too. So make as many connections as possible and also just hustle the streets and like, you know, try to get in the door. Just get that 1 gig a week or, you know, whatever, just to just have one place to play a week. I mean, you'll forget about even the money. I mean, I do want you to get paid. I do think that's important, but forget about the money completely and just be like, hey, it's for the experience of like having that one place to play every single week. The fact that I had one, two, sometimes three places to play every single week, that's what really helped my musicianship personally. Hope that that helps out. Hey, congratulations on graduating high school. That's awesome. TLG Productions is the best way to start playing in jam sessions to just learn 2 to 3 standards well, and after that, get started playing those with more experienced musicians at the session. I think the best way to get started is go to your local session and actually see what jazz standards they're playing, right? Because I think there's like this thing where people feel intimidated, and unfortunately, sometimes it depends on the scene. There's a bit of a vibey, for lack of better terms, culture. I think the best way to make yourself feel more prepared and relaxed is just to go there and be a fly on the wall at first, see what standards are being played. If you don't know them, go back home and learn them, then come back, right? I think that's a good way to get started. I did a video on YouTube. You guys can check it out later. I think it's called How to Not Suck at Jazz Jam Sessions and Gigs. Just look it up. It's on the feed on my channel. That's a good one to look at. I give like a bunch of different tips there that I think might be helpful. Eduardo, congrats, man. Can you suggest us modern jazz bands? Oof, so many modern jazz bands. Brian Blade Fellowship, love Brian Blade Fellowship. Kurt Rosenwinkel, love Kurt Rosenwinkel. Any of that stuff. Danilo Perez, John Patitucci, Wayne Shorter's group. It's great, right? I studied with John Patitucci for a little bit with a class in college, and then I also did a few lessons at his house. Man, what a brilliant musician! I mean, seriously, can't get much better than that. What other stretching to all set? Aaron Parks, I love Aaron Parks, piano player, excellent. Some maybe I don't know because I'm very hooked into the New York jazz scene. Joel Fromm, amazing saxophone player. Uh, Joshua Redman. I love Joshua Redman. Joshua Redman, check him out. And he's played with Brad Meldau. Okay. I love him. I love Brad Meldau. Brad Meldau trio stuff. Art of the Trio, ones, twos, threes, whatever at the Vanguard. Absolutely love all of Brad Meldau stuff. One of my favorite modern jazz guitar players who's still sort of rooted a bit in the tradition is Peter Bernstein. Wholeheartedly into Peter Bernstein. Yeah, there's so many. I could probably sit here forever just going through ones that I think are great that have just impacted me personally. I love modern jazz. Depends on what modern jazz it is, but I love all jazz. I love all of it, starting from the early 1930s rather, and just moving on up. I love most of it. I can find at least something in all of it that I like. Um, that was a few. That was a lot. Hope a few of those stuck with you. If there's like a specific instrument you're looking for, maybe I'll know somebody and I can answer that for you. Um, Andres Guzman Ballin. Here's another question. What are some of the worst ear training exercises you know? The worst ear I don't know that I'm aware of a worst ear training exercise. I mean, I guess one that doesn't help you, but I don't know what that is. I'm a believer in the fundamentals of ear training. I even have an entire course on that called How to Play What You Hear. I do believe that understanding intervals and being able to hear chord, like you start with intervals. If you can hear intervals, then you can hear chords because chords are just intervals. If you hear chords, you can hear chord progressions, right? And then if you can hear chord progressions, you can start also applying that so that you can translate what you hear to your instrument, which in the most applicable way is learning stuff from ear from recordings, right? But I do believe in the fundamentals. That doesn't answer your question, but I think that I don't know if I know of any bad ones, but I think the good ones start with the basics and then move on up. Some people like to go straight to the top. That's fine. I like to combine the fundamentals of ear training, and I like to combine the practical application of ear training, which is in a jazz setting, that's learning solos by ear, learning licks by ear, and taking them through all 12 keys, stuff like that. You probably heard that before from teachers. That's my opinion. Um, am I still in NYC? Yes, I still live in NYC. I live in Queens. I love Queens. Bob Reynolds, yeah, he's great, and also he has a great YouTube channel, by the way. Part of Snarky Puppy. Snarky Puppy is a really cool band, by the way. Oh, Snarky Puppy. Oh man, what? Here's a tricky one. What is jazz and what isn't jazz? I feel like I talked about this in a recent video I did. Um, I think you know what? I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to answer that on this live stream. I did do a video on no, I did a podcast. I did a podcast just 2 podcast episodes ago. If you go to learnjazzstandards.com podcasts or learnjazzstandards.com/podcast, I did this episode where I took the theme of the LJS podcast, my podcast, and I taught how to improvise over it, and we did some listener submissions of people who improvised over the podcast. And at the beginning, I sort of talk about the reason I came up with this idea is because someone wrote me a negative review on iTunes saying, "Hey, this isn't even jazz, this intro." And so, I was like, you know what? I'm going to show this person how it could be jazz. So, yeah, I'm not going to answer that today, but check out that podcast episode. Chase Adams, what is the best way to figure out chord changes to songs that aren't, for example, on Pro or the internet? What is the best way to figure out chord changes to songs that aren't on Pro or the internet? Well, so Chase, I am a firm believer in learning jazz standards by ear, and there's multiple reasons for that. The primary reason being that if you learn it by ear, you are going to remember it forever. And I encourage you to put this to the test. Try learning a random jazz standard just off of a lead sheet, Pro, wherever you find it, and then try learning one by ear. Now, I guarantee you, learning the one by ear is really difficult. It's not easy, especially if you haven't done it before. And the one by sheet music, if you're good at reading sheet music, is going to be easy. But the one you're going to know really well, you're going to be able to improvise over better, is the one you learn by ear. So every time I always say, for sure, learn the melody by ear. So definitely learn the melody by ear. Even if it's hard, it gets easier. The more you do this, this gets easier. I teach this in my 30 Steps to Better Jazz Playing course. It gets easier every time you do it, right? And everybody says the same thing. You know what, Brent? I didn't think I could do it. Now I can do it. It's way easier, right? So just learn the melody by ear. Start with that. And then as far as learning the chord changes by ear, I know that's hard. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. Even if you have to have your instrument by you to like just stop the recording, go, what was that bass note? Oh, is that note? What was the next bass note? Oh, is that bass note? But start somewhere. I'm not saying you can't use a piece of sheet music to compare, your results, or maybe you get stuck. That's okay. I'm not saying sheet music is evil by any means. But yes, Chase, to answer your question, the best way to figure out chord changes, anyway, my opinion, is by ear. Hope that helps. Is there one great fake book that you can recommend? By Carl. Okay, Carl. I don't know if there's one that I could recommend. And again, like I said before, they're not evil. I'm not saying they're evil. But just realize that when you're looking at something from a fake book, that it may not be correct always. I know I've played lots of gigs with singers where it's like, here's this random song in this random key, and I'm reading the chord changes, and me and the bass player eventually look at each other and we're like, that's not right. That's not the right changes, right? So I don't know if I could recommend one. I mean, Hal Leonard does a good job with their stuff. They do a good job with their stuff. But just I think any piece of sheet music, and even your ear, like just check it with multiple sources. That's all I would say with that. Andres, what are your biggest accomplishments and roadblocks you found with your playing? My biggest accomplishments are some I answered. I don't know if it was your question or somebody else's question earlier. Just those like cloud nine moments when I'm playing with other people where I transcend my abilities because I'm locked in with the music, because all of the homework I did in the practice room, all of the hours of gigs that I've played, like those are all important. And that's the only way I was technically able to do what I did. But just locking with those other musicians, like my biggest accomplishments are when I leave a gig and I'm like, I cannot believe that just happened. That was the best. And now I remember why I'm a musician. That's what I would say. Roadblocks have been limiting beliefs. I did a video on that on YouTube, by the way. Limiting beliefs in your jazz playing. The limiting beliefs, like just feeling like I'm not good enough. I'm worried about what I think about what this other musician's going to think about me when I'm playing on this gig. Those are the biggest roadblock. It's always up here. It's always up here, guys. It's always the biggest roadblock. It's not having the growth mindset. Carol Dweck talks in her book Mindset, the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. When I don't have the growth mindset, where I'm looking at every situation as an opportunity to grow or get better, if I'm looking at it as a fixed situation, it never works out very well for me. Um, so hope that answers that question. All right, guys, I'm gonna have to wrap this up here. Let me see any other questions here in the feed. Christopher Pritchard says, I'm actually across the water from Seattle, but I'll be going to college in Bellingham and hope it's a good city for gigging. I'm just nervous and about memorizing chords so I don't look dumb without the sheet chord. Yeah, just, hey, Christopher, don't worry about it. Don't get stressed. Just put in that effort learning that by ear. All right, guys, I want to answer more questions, but I'm running out of time here. And I want to do what I promised earlier, which was unbox this YouTube silver play button. So you guys ready for this? Do you mind if I do this? I think this is a fun thing to do because it's not just me who's earned this. It's all of you for subscribing, for being a part of the Learn Jazz Standards community. So I do appreciate you guys. So here's the package. I got this from UPS today. Let me open it up here. All right, you open it up here and it's got some little felt there. This is funny. I've never done an unboxing video before. All right. All right. So there's this little letter here. Let me read this letter really quick. All right. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says, what does it say? You've just done something very few YouTube creators accomplish. You've had an astonishing 100,000 people subscribe to your channel. You know that you don't do this for the awards. You do it because you have a drive to create and share, because you found an audience who cares. That's right. You guys do care. Believe us when we say that we can't wait to see what you do next. 1 million subscribers may seem a long way off right now, but you're closer than you think, and we're rooting for you. Congratulations. Well, that's awesome. So signed by the CEO of YouTube. All right. So let me pull this out here, guys. It's here. It's here. I promise. Some of you are saying it's empty. All right. Here it is. Learn Jazz Standard, presented to Learn Jazz Standards for passing 100,000 subscribers. Really cool. It's actually a little heavier than I thought. It's actually pretty quality. It's got a little felt back there, a little place to hang it. I'm probably going to hang it on I'm going to hang it by my little ebook plaques that I have back there. Sounded like an okay thing to do. Pretty cool. So thank you guys. Appreciate you all for being a part of this. Very cool that to reach this milestone. And I'm not going to be stopping. I'm going to be coming out with plenty of other jazz lesson videos for you all. And by the way, you can always let me know if you have suggestions for content at learnjazzstandards.com/contact. Always feel free to email. Let me know. There's something that, we answered a bunch of questions today for about 42 minutes. Wow, that's a long time. But yeah, happy to make more in-depth content on some of these questions too. Hey, thanks guys for all being here. Really appreciate all of you, especially the guys from Sweden staying up all night. You guys are awesome. Appreciate that. And by the way, hey, just one more thing before I go. On May 26th, on Sunday, my new ebook and companion course, the Jazz Standards Playbook Volume 2, is coming out. 10 in-depth studies of jazz standards. Really excited about this. I'm working on this. So I believe I have in the description, but you can also find that at the Jazz Standards Playbook 2. That's the number 2.com. There's a little sign up list there, but if you're a rewatch watcher, you'll just see the page there to check out that book anyways. All right, guys. So thanks for being here. Really appreciate all of you. Thanks for all the great questions. I'm signing off. I'll see you on your earbuds on the podcast or the next video on YouTube. Cheers, everybody.